I was a professional liar for 15 years. Every third Thursday of the month, I'd sit in that same beige chair, look Dr. Martinez straight in the eye, and tell him I was fine. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Washington?" "Fine, doctor. Always fine." The truth was rotting inside me like a tumor, but I kept feeding him those pretty lies, until last month, when something broke open and I couldn't hold it anymore. It started in 2008. That's when my grandson Michael got deployed to Afghanistan. 22 years old, fresh out of basic training, with his daddy's stubborn streak and his mama's gentle heart. I raised that boy after my daughter LaShonda got hooked on crack cocaine. Took him in when he was 7, all knobby knees and missing teeth, clutching a garbage bag full of clothes that smelled like cigarettes and broken promises. Michael was my second chance, the child I could save after I failed his mama. I poured everything into that boy, helped him with homework at my kitchen table under the yellow light that flickered when the wind blew too hard. Taught him to tie his shoes, to say his prayers, to look people in the eye when he shook their hands. Watched him grow from that scared little boy into a man who called me every Sunday and still asked for my cornbread recipe, even though I'd given it to him a dozen times. When he shipped out, I promised myself I wouldn't fall apart. I'd been through Vietnam with his granddaddy. I knew how to be a military wife, how to keep the home fires burning and the worries locked away. But this was different. This was my baby boy walking into a war that made no sense to me, in a place I couldn't even pronounce right. The first few months were manageable. He'd call when he could, his voice crackling through that terrible connection, telling me about the heat and the dust and the guys in his unit who reminded him of his friends back home. I'd listen to every word like it was scripture, filing away the sound of his laugh, the way he still said, "Yes, ma'am," even though he was carrying an M16 in a country 8,000 miles away. Then the calls started getting shorter, more space between them. His voice got different, harder somehow, like something vital had been scraped away. When I'd ask how he was doing, he'd say, "Fine," the same way I'd been saying it to Dr. Martinez. Like fine was a wall you could hide behind, instead of a feeling you actually felt. November 15th, 2008. That's the day everything changed. I was in my kitchen making Sunday dinner for one, listening to gospel music on the radio, when the phone rang. "Military casualty officer," that's what the voice said. "Your grandson, Michael Washington, has been injured in an IED explosion. He's alive, ma'am, but he's hurt bad, real bad." I don't remember much about the next few days. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, says I screamed so loud she thought someone was being murdered. Says she found me on my kitchen floor, still holding the phone, rocking back and forth like I was trying to comfort a baby that wasn't there. Michael survived, but pieces of him didn't come home. His left leg below the knee, 3 fingers on his right hand, something in his eyes that used to dance when he laughed. The boy who came back 17 months later wasn't my Michael, not completely. He walked different, talked different, looked at the world like it might explode at any moment. Most people walk away when stories get this heavy. The fact that you're still listening, that means something. He moved into my basement when he got discharged. Said it was temporary, just until he figured things out. But I could see the weight of all that figuring sitting on his shoulders like a coat that was too heavy for the weather. He'd sleep most of the day and pace the house most of the night. I'd hear his footsteps above my bedroom ceiling, walking the same pattern over and over, like he was trying to wear a path through the floor. I started going to Dr. Martinez that same year. Medicare said I needed a primary care physician, and his office was 2 bus stops from my house. He was young then, probably fresh out of residency, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and the sort of gentle manner that made you want to tell him your troubles. Every time he'd ask how I was feeling, every cell in my body wanted to say, "Doctor, I'm drowning." My grandson came home from war, but part of him is still over there, and I don't know how to reach him. I wake up every morning scared he won't make it through another day, and I go to sleep every night listening for sounds that might mean he's giving up. I'm 68 years old, and I feel like I'm failing the most important job I ever had. But I'd look at his young face, at the pictures of his own family on his desk, and think about all the people he probably saw who were really sick, really dying, really in need of his time and medicine. And I'd swallow all those words and smile and say, "Fine, doctor, I'm doing just fine." The lies got easier with practice. Dr. Martinez would check my blood pressure, listen to my heart, look in my throat, and ask his questions. And I'd give him answers that kept his appointments moving smoothly. Yes, I'm eating well. No, I'm not having trouble sleeping. Yes, I'm staying active. No, I don't feel sad or anxious. Everything's fine, doctor. Thank you for asking. Meanwhile, at home, I was watching Michael disappear in slow motion. He stopped showering regularly, stopped answering his phone when his army buddies called, stopped eating the meals I'd leave outside his bedroom door, started drinking beer for breakfast and staying up all night playing video games with the volume loud enough to drown out whatever was playing in his head. I tried everything I could think of, made his favorite foods, suggested we go to church together, asked if he wanted to talk to someone, maybe a counselor who specialized in helping veterans. He'd look at me with those hollow eyes and say, "I'm fine, Nana, just tired." The same lie I was telling Dr. Martinez, the same wall we were both hiding behind. 2 years into this routine, Michael tried to kill himself. I found him in my garage on a Tuesday morning, unconscious in my old Buick with the engine running and the garage door closed. The paramedics said another 20 minutes and he would have been gone. As they loaded him into the ambulance, one of them asked me if I'd noticed any warning signs, any changes in his behavior, and I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time because I'd been watching nothing but warning signs for 2 solid years. At the hospital, while Michael was getting his stomach pumped and his blood tested, a social worker sat me down in one of those awful plastic chairs and asked me how I was holding up. "Fine," I heard myself say, like it was a reflex I couldn't control. "We're managing just fine." She looked at me for a long moment, like she was trying to see through the lie. But then her pager beeped, and she had to go deal with some other family's crisis, and I was left alone with my fineness and my grandson, who had just tried to leave me forever. Michael spent 3 days in psychiatric hold, then came home with a bag full of medications and a list of therapy appointments he'd never keep. We fell back into our old patterns. He'd stay in the basement. I'd leave food outside his door. Dr. Martinez would ask how I was feeling. I'd tell him I was fine. Round and round we went, like we were stuck in some terrible dance where nobody knew the steps, but everyone was too proud to admit it. The years blurred together after that. Michael would have good days where he'd come upstairs and watch TV with me, maybe even laugh at something on one of those game shows I liked. Then he'd have bad days where I wouldn't see him for a week, except for the dirty dishes he'd leave in the sink at 3 a.m. Through it all, Dr. Martinez kept asking his questions, and I kept giving my answers, like we were reading from a script that never changed. I told myself I was protecting everyone. Michael didn't need to carry the weight of my worry on top of everything else he was dealing with. Dr. Martinez didn't need to hear about problems he couldn't solve with a prescription or a referral. My church friends didn't need to know that the woman who organized the food drives and taught Sunday school was falling apart in her own kitchen every night after the dishes were done. I could handle it. I was strong. I was fine. But fine is a funny word. The more you say it, the less it means anything. It becomes just a sound you make when someone asks you a question you don't want to answer. A way to end a conversation before it really starts. A door you close when someone tries to look inside your life and see what's really there. After Michael's second suicide attempt in 2015, I started having what Dr. Martinez called anxiety attacks. My heart would race for no reason. I'd wake up in the middle of the night soaked in sweat, convinced something terrible was happening, even when the house was quiet. My hands would shake when I tried to write checks or open jars. But when Dr. Martinez asked about my symptoms, I'd minimize everything. Just getting older, doctor. Maybe need to cut back on caffeine. Nothing serious. Everything's fine. He prescribed me medication for high blood pressure and suggested I might benefit from talking to someone about stress management. I nodded and smiled and took the prescription and never filled it. Talking to someone meant admitting there was something wrong, and admitting there was something wrong meant I'd failed at the one job that mattered most. Keeping my family together, keeping Michael alive, keeping the promise I'd made to his mama that I'd take care of her baby, no matter what. If any of this sounds familiar, there are more stories I need to get off my chest. I've been carrying them my whole life, and I'm not done talking. The breaking point came last month. Michael had been clean from alcohol for almost a year, attending AA meetings, even talking about maybe going back to school. I was starting to believe we'd turned a corner, that maybe all those years of patient waiting and careful lying had finally paid off. Then his best friend from the army, a boy named Carlos who'd served with him in Afghanistan, died by suicide in Phoenix. Michael got the call on a Thursday morning. I watched 15 years of healing evaporate in 15 seconds. He didn't try to kill himself this time. Something worse happened. He just gave up. Stopped talking, stopped eating, stopped pretending he was okay. For 3 weeks he sat in my living room staring at the television without seeing it, like he was looking through the screen into some place I couldn't follow him. I made an appointment with Dr. Martinez, emergency visit, told his receptionist my grandson needed help, that we'd been struggling for years, that I didn't know what else to do. She squeezed me in that same afternoon. I sat in that beige chair I'd been lying in for 15 years, looked at Dr. Martinez with his kind eyes and his gentle manner, and prepared to tell him everything. "How are you feeling today, Mrs. Washington?" he asked. The same question he'd been asking for 15 years. And for the first time in all those years, I told him the truth. "Doctor," I said, and my voice came out like a croak, like I'd forgotten how to use it for anything honest. "I'm not fine. I haven't been fine since 2008. My grandson tried to kill himself twice. I wake up every morning wondering if today's the day I'll find him dead in my house. I lie awake every night listening for sounds that might mean he's giving up. I've been pretending to be strong for so long, I don't remember what it feels like to actually be strong. I'm 83 years old, and I'm scared, and I'm tired, and I need help." Dr. Martinez put down his pen, took off his glasses, looked at me with something I'd never seen in his face before. Relief, like he'd been waiting 15 years for me to stop lying to him. "Mrs. Washington," he said, "I was wondering when you were going to tell me what was really going on." Turns out doctors aren't stupid. Turns out they can see through the word fine when it's being used as armor instead of truth. Turns out Dr. Martinez had been documenting his concerns about my mental health for years, noting the signs of chronic stress and depression I thought I was hiding so well. He'd been ready to help me from the beginning. I just hadn't been ready to let him. That day, for the first time in 15 years, we had a real conversation about Michael's PTSD, about caregiver fatigue, about the resources available through the VA for military families, about therapy and support groups and medications that might actually help instead of just masking the symptoms, about the difference between being strong and being honest. 3 weeks later, Michael started seeing a psychiatrist who specialized in combat trauma. I started seeing a therapist who understood what it meant to love someone who was fighting a war you couldn't see. We both started taking medications that helped our brains remember how to feel things without drowning in them. I'm not going to tell you everything got better overnight, because that would be another lie, and I'm done with those. Michael still has bad days. I still wake up some mornings with that old familiar weight sitting on my chest like a stone. But we're both learning how to ask for help instead of hiding behind words like fine. Last month at my regular appointment, Dr. Martinez asked me how I was feeling. I thought for a moment, really thought, about how to answer honestly. "Better," I told him. "Not great, not all the way healed, but better than I was, and grateful to finally be telling you the truth." He smiled and wrote something in my chart, probably the same thing he'd been wanting to write for 15 years. Patient finally ready to accept help. I wish I'd started telling the truth sooner. 15 years is a long time to carry lies that don't protect anybody, least of all the people you're trying to protect. but I'm telling it now, and that has to count for something. The truth might come late sometimes, but it still has power. It still has the ability to change everything, even when you're 83 years old and think it's too late for new beginnings. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop pretending to be fine when you're not. Sometimes the greatest act of love is admitting you need help instead of trying to carry everything alone. Sometimes the truth you've been avoiding is the key to the healing you've been praying for. And sometimes it just takes 15 years to find the courage to use it.